powered by Riverside FM.
What is going on, everybody? This is your friendly neighborhood coach, and this is the next installment of the Locker Room. Yes, sir. I am your friendly neighborhood coach, and I am here to talk a little bit about Cleveland sports. It is a Saturday evening, 7 o'clock in the p.m., and I wanted to get everything set for this Sunday, the Cleveland Browns. We're going to talk a little bit of Cavaliers. We're going to talk a little bit of Guardians. We're going to talk some Shedeur Sanders. And we also going to talk about, of course, Mr. Kevin Stefanski. So let's get ourselves prepared for the locker room.
All are my ultimate weapon.
Yo. A design for disaster, from the mind of the master. Plot thicker than encyclopedias with unlimited chapters. Face like I play poker, so you get no hints of the takeover. We hear the bulldozer, the slave owners. Call us insidious, cause we reject the silliness and refuse to participate in your game of idiots. I'm so annoyed by the trashy, more flashy than the paparazzi. I avoid with flashing they Polaroids. I'm not your hero, light up the signal. You SOL, I'm busy, sipping my Tito's in the casino. Go ahead.
Yo, yes, that is the Pantheon from my boys from the C-Town area. Listen, man, if y'all ain't chimed in on them, y'all need to go ahead on YouTube, type in the Pantheon. They are, man, I'm telling you, man, these guys is hot, man. I know these guys for over 20 years. These are my brothers, and I'm going to always support them. You know what I mean? But let's get into it, man. This is the locker room. This is your friendly neighborhood coach. And let me break down some things before we go ahead and get started. Yes, I'm Cleveland born. I'm Cleveland bred. I'm going to always have Cleveland in my heart until I go home and see our Lord and Savior. You know what I mean? So I just want to come in. I've been living in Arizona for over 20 years. I've coached 3 different sports for over 30 years, just retired. But I love my Cleveland sports, man. I love my Cleveland sports. I love talking about my Cleveland sports. Don't get me wrong. I'll talk about other things that go on along in the sports world, but I'm based in Cleveland, man, and I love it. You know what I'm saying? So I love talking about it. And one of my mottos is this. A lot of stuff I say you may not like, but you're going to listen. You want to know why? Because I'm first team all common sense. You know what I'm saying? That's exactly what I'm going to do is I'm going to have things make sense to me. So listen, if you have not subscribed to the locker room, I want you guys to subscribe. I am a proud member of 3 The Hard Way Sports Podcast. You can also subscribe there on YouTube. All right. Listen, let's go ahead and let's get this thing started. Let's talk a little bit about the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers last night, they played the Brooklyn Nets. They beat the Nets. And so let's talk a little bit about the Cavaliers. Cavaliers have been predicted to win the Eastern Conference. All right, they're starting out, got a couple men down. Max Strus is down. Darius Garland is down. DeAndre Hunter is down. So Kenny Atkinson is mixing up the lineup. They lost to the New York Knicks opening night. Jared Allen looked absolutely horrible. I don't know what it is about the New York Knicks. I have no idea what the brain lock is when it comes to him and the New York Knicks. However, he bounced back the next game against the Brooklyn Nets. You know what I mean? And he had 20 points, 22 points, some of that nature. Donovan Mitchell went off for 30. Sam Merrill had almost 20. Tyrese Proctor, the rookie from Duke, played pretty well. And so guys coming off the bench, Kenny's mixing and matching, and I see what he's doing. Evan Mobley was a bit disappointing. And my take on Evan Mobley is everybody's talking about the unicorn, how he's supposed to be the unicorn. And so I have a different take on that. I think to a certain extent, Evan Mobley's reached his ceiling. And what do I mean by that? I think 20 points, 20, 22, 10, I think he's reached his ceiling. Here's why. Evan Mobley fell in love with the three-point shot. because now he knows that he can make it, and because the game has evolved, you have a lot of big shooting three-pointers. Here's my problem with Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley has fell in love with the three-point shot. And so what happens? What happens is he veers away from the post, okay? It's nothing wrong with being a three-point shooter, but also a dominant post player. There's nothing wrong with that. And until Evan Mobley figures that out, Evan Mobley will still give you 20 points one night, 10 points the other night. That level of inconsistency. He doesn't seem to understand that if your three-point shot is not falling, go ahead and get to the post, go ahead and get to the rack, get to the free throw line, make your free throws. I think he was like 72% last season. He's got to be better than 72%. Okay. And so that's my thing with Evan Mobley is right now, if he continues to fall in love with that three-point shot, he's at a ceiling. He's there. If he decides to mix his game up, then Evan Mobley can be a 25 and 12, 25 and 14. He can easily. Okay. But he's got to understand how to mix his game up. Ball handling is pretty decent for a guy his size. Okay, I'm not saying that's going to be the long-term thing, him bringing it up. I know Kenny Atkinson came from Golden State and Steve Kerr. I know he looks at it. He wants Evan to be more of a, a facilitator, you know what I'm saying, a la Draymond Green. Well, here's the thing when it comes to Draymond, no disrespect, but Draymond wasn't the greatest shooter in the world, okay? But he's a great passer. He's a great setup guy. You know what I'm saying? But, when it comes to if you need a three-point shot from Draymond Green throughout his career, he's not going to give you that. And there's no disrespect to Draymond Green. He got rings. You understand what I'm saying? He's a facilitator. But you're trying to mold Evan Mobley into that kind of mode. I'm not saying that you can't do it, but what I'm saying is make it advantageous for him. And what I mean by that is, being an old basketball coach, somebody with the skill set of Evan Mobley, I'm going to put in the high post. I'm going to put him in the high post, and I'm going to run the offense through him. Why? Because if you run the offense through Evan Mobley at the high post, a la free throw line extended, you can't double team him. Now you got to guard him one-on-one. And it's not too many bigs that can guard Evan Mobley one-on-one. Okay. And if you do decide to double team, he's a willing passer. So that's what I'm saying. I think Kenny doesn't see it yet. Because that's the first thing that I'm going to do with Evan Mobley is I'm putting him in the high post. If you got Jared Allen, you can run a high-low. Okay. You can run that high-low. Now, if you want Evan to get off, then you're going to have to take Jared Allen out and you put Larry Nance Jr. in. Because then Larry Nance can float from the three-point line to the baseline. Now what you've done is you've opened up the floor so that Evan Mobley can cook. And if something goes wrong, you still got, the human cheat code, which is Donovan Mitchell. Okay? So I just think Kenny is just kind of overthinking this. Excuse me, a little bit. I think he's overthinking this. But yes, they beat the Nets. And they play Milwaukee tomorrow as the home opener there at Rocket Mortgage Arena. And I don't think right now when I looked, the early prognostication was that Giannis wasn't playing. Okay, so don't expect the Cavaliers to rip off 15. Not now. Darius Garland is going to come back sooner than later. Max Strus is not estimated to come back until December, which is fine. And then DeAndre Hunter should be back, okay, in a bit. I know what Kenny is doing. I'm not upset what Kenny is doing. Kenny's throwing these young kids in the fire now. Your Jalen Tysons and your Tyrese Proctors. Throwing them guys in the fire now. Sam Merrill, throwing them in the fire. He's throwing these guys in the fire. You want to know why? Because it's going to prepare them for the playoffs. Okay? Now, Tyrese Proctor may not play in the playoffs, but Jalen Tyson will. Okay? He'll get some run in the playoffs. All right? So I see what Kenny is doing. you have Lonzo Ball. As long as Lonzo Ball stays healthy, I believe Lonzo Ball is the X factor, because that dude is a absolute change of pace. He can push the rock. Okay. Now, you miss some of the creativity of shots like a Ty Jerome, but from a defensive aspect, from a passing aspect, I think you've upgraded. Okay. The only knock on Lonzo Ball is that he can't stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, the Cavaliers are going to be a force to reckon with when everybody is healthy, because Lonzo Ball will run that second team, and that second team is going to become just that much better. If Dean Wade can start being consistent scoring, then that second unit becomes dangerous with Lonzo Ball running it. So, and for those that are saying the regular season don't count, I disagree. The regular season counts from a standpoint of getting your young rookies, your second year guys, getting them in, getting their feet wet, getting them understanding the Kenny Atkinson's offense, getting them to understand the speed of the game. I think Craig Porter Jr. is also going to be an X factor. Okay. So this is what I'm saying. Getting these young guys, all right, getting these G League dudes who come up, your Naquan Tomlins, getting those guys in, getting those guys some meaningful minutes. Now, that way when the playoffs come, okay, now these guys are not shook. They know what's going on. So shout out to Kenny Atkinson and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Kobe Altman has done a fabulous job, even though they are in the second tier of the luxury tax, of adding on people, of holding on to people. But this is the Cavaliers window. They got about 3 years. That they got to make this happen. Because the salary and the second tier is going to squeeze them. It's going to be hard. Okay. Let's move on. Listen, and once again, before we move on, if you have not subscribed to the Locker Room, I'm telling y'all right now, go to YouTube. All right. And subscribe to the Locker Room. Because I'm going to try to do this every Saturday. I'm going to try to come on Saturday to build up for, whatever happens during the week and on Sunday. And if you guys don't get enough of Coach, then you can go on Monday night, Tuesday, and you can see 3 The Hard Way Sports Podcast with me, L Train, and my man Terrence, the captain. All right. So let's go ahead and let's get into what we want to talk about next. And that is the Cleveland Browns. All right. So the Cleveland Browns are playing the New England Patriots tomorrow at 1:00. Patriots are 5-2. The Cleveland Browns are 2-5. Just coming off a win versus the Miami Dolphins, and the Miami Dolphins are an absolute dumpster fire. And then, of course, the talk this week was that Kevin Stefanski said he was not giving that Shedeur Sanders was getting reps, but he was not getting first-team reps. Now, let me preface this by saying I am very critical of Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, Paul D. Podesta, Jimmy Haslam. I'm very critical of all of them, but the most critical one I am on is Kevin Stefanski. I've said this on 3 The Hard Way, and I'm going to say this on the Locker Room. Kevin Stefanski is nothing but a used car salesman. When you listen to him talk, he talks as if everyone in the room is stupid. And he says things that, honestly, when you break it down, it doesn't make sense. Kevin Stefanski is also petty. When he doesn't get his way, he forces his own hand. Now, I'll explain a little bit about that later, but let's get into this. Shedeur Sanders is the backup quarterback. Most backup quarterbacks get some first-team reps because the starter is one unfortunate injury away from the backup going in. So when Kevin Stefanski says that Shedeur is not getting a couple of first team reps, but he's getting substantial reps. No, stop it. Stop it. And here's my problem with the Cleveland media. They don't ask follow-up questions. Or when they do, he avoids them. Whenever he talks about Shedeur Sanders, he brings team. When he talks about Dillon Gabriel, he talks about that individual. Now, I'm not pushing this narrative like Tony Grossi of WKNR, and I don't push that. He's pushing that narrative. As much as he sits up and tries not to, he pushes it. So I'm not trying to push the narrative. I want to see the best quarterback lead this team. That's what I want to see. If it's Dillon Gabriel, then let it be Dillon Gabriel. If it's Shedeur Sanders, then let it be Shedeur Sanders. I just want to win. This is what I want to see from the Cleveland Browns. I don't think their attitude is of winning as an organization. I think they're worried about this stadium at Brook Park, which is in 2029. I think they're more concerned about that than they're actually concerned about winning. Okay? And this is my opinion. You don't have to like it, but it is what it is. Okay? Jimmy Haslam is a Timu Jerry Jones. He meddles and he thinks that he can just throw money at things and it goes away. Well, right now, the city of Cleveland is proving that he can do that. Why he moved the stadium to Brook Park and he paid off the city of Cleveland, and they took that payoff and said, okay, you can go to Brook Park. I grew up going to the Cleveland Municipal Stadium right there on the lakefront. I grew up in that old relic, that they tore down. I was at the last game that the Browns played against the Cincinnati Bengals before they left to Baltimore. I was there. Okay? I grew up watching the Browns. I have an absolute love and admiration for the Browns. That's my team. But since 1999, they have been the most dysfunctional organization in sports, period. From Al Lerner, rest his soul, now to Jimmy Haslam. And I could even go back a little bit to Art Modell, but Art Modell has some pretty decent people in line, okay? But since 1999, the Browns organization has been dysfunctional. And it is, now it hasn't changed. Jimmy Haslam meddles. Paul DePodesta, what does he actually do? I saw somebody come on the YouTube and talked about why. Quincy Carrier. Shout out to Quincy Carrier. He talked about people going at Paul DePodesta, and he didn't understand why people went at Paul DePodesta. Well, number one, the reason people go after Paul DePodesta is because he's like Tommy from Martin. Nobody knows what he does. Number two, he don't even live in Cleveland. He travels from LA to Ohio. Number three, he's a baseball guy. Why do you have a baseball guy in your organization? Why? Now, if he's dealing with this, the outside businesses, the Haslam Corporation and things of that nature, okay, then say that. Now, I did hear that Paul DePodesta has advised Jimmy on things that would have made sense, and Jimmy went the other direction. And that's why I said Jimmy Haslam is a part of the problem, because he can't sit back and let people do what they need to do. And then he holds on to people too long. Okay. Then let's shift to Andrew Berry. I'm going to get to the Patriots, y'all. I know you like, come on, coach, let's talk football, but I'm going to get there. But let's talk about Andrew Berry. Andrew Berry, I think, has saved his job with this draft class. Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, Quinshawn Junkins, Dylan Sampson, Carson Swessinger, okay, Mason Graham. All right. The trade for Campbell, which we thought was crazy. Okay, but Campbell seems to be a player. All right. And don't forget, I did hear Greg Newsom's comments that when they talked to him, we'll get into that another show. I'm not going to even acknowledge right now BBCT, Burt Bacon, Crispy Toast. Okay. But Andrew Berry has saved his job for the moment with this draft class. He's also picked up a lot of draft picks. Now, I hear rumors that, the trade deadline is going to be some more trades. One of my trades I think is going to happen. David Njoku is gone, y'all. Because Harold Fannin Jr., who I did not mention with the other rookies in that draft class, Harold Fannin Jr. is David Njoku's replacement. And I understand that. I do. David Njoku wants to be in Cleveland, but David Njoku has lost a step. He has. You can honestly see it, that David Njoku's lost a step. However, he's still serviceable. But if the Browns can get a pick for him and send him somewhere where he can win. David Njoku's been a class act since he's been here, rewarding, I think Bitonio is going to retire after this year. You got to make a decision on Ethan Posich. You got to make a decision on Wyatt Teller. You got to make a decision on Jack Conklin. Okay? Jack Conklin, I did not understand why the Browns signed him a couple years ago and it gave him an extension. Jack Conklin was injured then. Jack Conklin has never been healthy. You got to make a decision on DeJuan Jones. As much as I want to see DeJuan Jones can't stay upright. He can't. So you got to figure out what you're going to do with him, okay? Now let's get to the game. If the Browns defense plays the way that they play, I see this being a dogfight. If the Browns can beat the New England Patriots, they get a bye week, and then they play a team that's worse than the Miami Dolphins, which is the New York Jets. If the Browns can win, they're back in the race. Because I've said this before and I'll say it again. Pittsburgh is, I think they're 5-2 or 4-2. Much respect to Mike Tomlin. I have nothing but the utmost respect for Mike Tomlin, as he's never had a losing season. Also, I don't understand why Mike Tomlin has not ever won Coach of the Year. It doesn't make any sense to me. Seeing as that he's taken a couple of bad Pittsburgh Steelers teams and they've won games. So remember they had Kenny Pickett and they still didn't go below 500. All right. Now they get to the playoffs and then they get boat raced, but that's not my problem. I'm going to give Mike Tomlin credit where credit is due. He is an absolute excellent coach. And, I don't believe in them when they get to the playoffs. It's just hard. Okay. So Pittsburgh, I think, is smoke and mirrors. Cincinnati, even when Joe Burrow gets back, their defense is straight garbage. I mean, hot, stirred, fried trash. Baltimore's in the influx right now. I know Lamar Jackson is hurt. He should be coming back. They are in an influx. I think Father Time is catching up to Derrick Henry. Zay Flowers is a stud. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they got players, but I think this might be an opportunity, or the first year that I think the AFC North is weak. Okay, because the AFC North to me is one of the strongest divisions in the NFL in football, but I think this year they're weak, and so if the Browns can beat the Patriots and then come back and beat the Jets, okay, you're looking at a 4-5 team who possibly could make a run. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that. I know on, 3 the Hard Way, I said the Browns could win 10 games. I was delusional. I was just looking at the roster and not looking at the fact that they hadn't solidified their quarterback position. Now, what do I think about the quarterback position? I think it's a dumpster fire. And I think it's a dumpster fire created by Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. Dumpster fire. And whoever was advising them prior to all of this should be terminated because it doesn't make sense. Somebody's got to be held accountable for the goofiness that is taking place in Berea, Ohio. Literally. You go and you pick up Kenny Pickett. You give Philadelphia a 5th round pick. Now remember, this is Kenny Pickett who was let go by the Pittsburgh Steelers. If Mike Tomlin lets you go, name me a Pittsburgh Steeler that Mike Tomlin let go that has flourished. Don't say Juju Smith-Schuster. Don't say Antonio Brown. Who? They're the one that they just sent to Dallas. No. Mike Tomlin understands people. So they got rid of Kenny Pickett. Philadelphia put him on there, and he was the backup for their Super Bowl team. He got a ring, being the backup. The Browns gave up a 5th round pick for him and DTR. And Philadelphia tried their best with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, but no, that didn't work. They ended up cutting him. Then DTR is not even in the league. He should have never been drafted, period. However, so, you look at they got Pickett. They went and signed, got Joe Flacco, who 2 years ago, Joe Flacco was the savior, took him to the playoffs. But then after that, Joe Flacco, the clock struck 12 on Cinderella. All right. And so you have to look at it as Andrew Berry thought enough of Joe Flacco and thought that Joe Flacco wasn't going to be a threat. Not only did he trade him, he traded him to the Cincinnati Bengals. Well, why did he do that? He did that for 2 reasons. And I'm going to talk about the first one. The first one is, Cincinnati's quarterback will be back. Okay. Joe Burrow will be back. So what does that do? That puts Joe Flacco on the bench. So Andrew Berry's not looking to see Joe Flacco against the Browns. He doesn't care. That's why he sent him there. Because the odds of him playing over Joe Burrow when Joe Burrow is healthy is going to be slim to none. So that's why Andrew Berry did that, number one. Number two, I truly believe, and this is my opinion and my opinion only, I truly believe that Andrew Berry sent Joe Flacco packing because he knew Kevin Stefanski was not going to make Shedeur Sanders the backup. He was going to ride Joe Flacco until the brakes fell off. So it was going to be Dylan Gabriel, and then if Dylan couldn't do it, he'd go back to Joe Flacco. This is what I mean by Kevin Stefanski is petty, and he also is vindictive. He's going to do what he wants to do. So what did Andrew Berry do? Andrew Berry said, you go. Now he had to make Shedeur Sanders the backup quarterback. Now, here's the conundrum. I saw a report, and I don't know how true it is, that Shedeur might be inactive tomorrow, and Bailey Zappi has been brought up to be the backup. I don't know how true that is, but it just continues to show me that Kevin Stefanski does not want to play Shedeur Sanders. And so people ask me, Coach, well, why won't he do it? Because Shedeur Sanders is not his guy. That's Andrew Berry's guy. Shedeur Sanders was drafted in the 5th round. We could talk collusion, some other time. Do I believe that the league, the owners colluded to try to humble Shedeur? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you can't go from being in some draft boards, the top quarterback, and in other draft boards, the number 2 quarterback, to going in the 5th round. Once again, I'm first team all common sense, y'all. Let it make sense to me. Okay? Let it make sense to me. But I digress. Let me not get into that. So I believe that Andrew Berry picked Shedeur because Shedeur dropping to the 5th round turned into an extreme value. Yes, he was drafted in the 5th round, but he is a first round. He has first round talent. Okay. So I think Kevin is trying his best to make Dillon Gabriel look like the savior. Dillon Gabriel's 5'0" 100 and nothing. If you watch the game that he had against the Ohio State Buckeyes, then you'll see the type of player that Dillon Gabriel is. It's not a knock on him, but you can't, I don't see Dillon Gabriel as a starting quarterback. Okay. You got to see if Shedeur, now it's 3 games, so I understand. So let's see what he does against New England tomorrow. Okay. First time Kevin had him throwing 54 passes. This next game, he had him throwing 18 against Miami. Now let's see what he does when it comes to New England. Because Mike Vrabel is not an idiot. He's going to stack the box. He knows that we want to run Quinshon Judkins. So he's going to stack the box. He was the offensive line coach last year. Do you think that he doesn't know how to attack the offensive line of the Browns? That's exactly what Mike Vrabel's going to do. So now Dillon Gabriel's got to throw the football, which he's not confident in because Stefanski hasn't given him any confidence. Okay? Very simple. Stefanski has given him no confidence. They had 222 yards of total offense last week. Dillon Gabriel threw 18 passes. Okay? And missed me with the conditions. I lived in Cleveland. The conditions last week was not as bad as they normally are. So I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Okay? So Kevin Stefanski is going to perish on his sword. And his sword is a sword of pettiness. That's what Kevin does. He's petty. I can take you through examples of Kevin Stefanski's pettiness, starting with Baker Mayfield, starting with Jacoby Brissett, then his pettiness to Jameis Winston. Okay? The list goes on. It's his ultimate pettiness. The game in England against the Minnesota Vikings. Petty. Just petty. Okay? That last drive against the Vikings was pathetic. You have a stud in Judkins who was running his tail off. But and for a lot of those who watch football but don't really understand the crux of it, Quinshon Judkins gains most of his yards getting to the outside. It doesn't mean he can't run in between the tackles, but most of his chunk yardage comes from tosses and sweeps. What does Kevin do? Handoff straight up the middle. Handoff straight up the middle. Okay? It doesn't make sense. All right? It doesn't make sense. But I digress once again. So we'll see if Stefanski and the Browns can beat the Patriots, which they don't play well in Foxborough. That's why I'm not really leaning toward the Browns. They've never played well in Foxborough. I think that's the first time I saw Nick Chubb one year. He wasn't known as a fumbler. He fumbled. They just don't play well in Foxborough. Okay? So we'll see. All right? So the Browns got to they got to do their thing, okay? All right, look, If you have not subscribed to the Locker Room, man, I don't know what's taking y'all so long. Go ahead and subscribe to the Locker Room. All right. I'm going to try to be on all platforms. I'm going to try to be on Facebook, YouTube, you name it. Also, go to 3 The Hard Way Sports Podcast here on YouTube. It ain't going to hurt you. It's just 3 boys from Cleveland that's talking Cleveland sports. You know what I mean? All right. But, and we keep it real. Okay. We keep it real. That's what we do. And we have a good time talking Cleveland sports. All right. So real quick, I want to talk about this NBA scandal. So I heard and been reading a little bit when it comes to there's been a gambling scandal in the NBA involving Chauncey Billups, the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, and also Hall of Fame point guard for the Denver Nuggets, and also championship point guard for the Detroit Pistons. Then there's Jason Terry. Is it Jason Terry? I think it's Jason Terry. Okay. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But he's a Cleveland boy as well. We call him Scary Terry. He's with the Miami Heat. And then there's Damon Jones, who was a former player for the Cavaliers and the Miami Heat. They all have been accused of sports gambling. And from all reports, Chauncey Billups was arrested the other day. Terry was arrested the other day. And Damon Jones was arrested. And so from an understanding, there were 31 people who were arrested. It was mob people involved, which is scary enough as it is. And people were being swindled out of money, high stakes poker. Reports were saying there was one gentleman who lost $1.2 million in a poker game. It's like, so, and the FBI is involved. And when the FBI is involved, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, something ain't right. Okay. It went past local, went past state, and straight to federal. Okay. Now, everybody's innocent until proven guilty in the court of law, but I understand how the court of public opinion is. Okay. And so, my commentary is this. You got guys, and I listen to Inside the NBA, that's now on ESPN with Chuck and Kenny and Shaq and the legendary Ernie Johnson. I heard their commentary, and Kenny Smith talked about gambling addictions. Chuck kind of poo-pooed it. He just said that they were stupid. Bottom line is this. You're making millions of dollars, and you're putting your family and your career and possibly your life in danger. For what? For some other people to get rich? Why? Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. And I don't understand the logic behind it. Now, like I said, they're innocent until proven guilty. But this has been an ongoing investigation by the FBI. The FBI will investigate you for years till they get enough evidence to go ahead and lock you up. Okay. Kash Patel came on, and he had a press conference, and he let it be known there were 31 arrests. Okay. And all the accusations that are coming down the line, oh, this NBA player, I'm going to keep my mouth shut until the report comes out. Okay. Damon Jones was arrested. There is no connection to LeBron James. Let's say that right now, and unless something else happens. But I have heard that, the only thing that was related to LeBron was Damon Jones was giving inside information on a night that LeBron was injured and wasn't going to play. That's the only time I've heard LeBron James' name. Haven't heard any other NBA player's name come through. Okay. So I'm not going to pile on these gentlemen like most sports talk people are doing. They're just piling on them. I'm not going to do that. But what I'm going to say is, number one, don't put your families in jeopardy like that. You have enough money to take care of you and your families for the rest of their lives. Why would you put that in peril? For Chauncey Billups, why would you put your legacy in jeopardy for something like that? It just doesn't make sense. Now, we don't know if these individuals have been strong-armed or leaned on by certain people. We don't know. So I'm not going to cast aspersions and make accusations that I cannot back up. I'm just saying from a practical standpoint, why would you do it? It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. So help me understand this, all right? I wasn't aware, honestly, that having poker games in your home was illegal. Didn't know that. Now you know. I don't know nothing about poker, so that's why it really didn't affect me. I played some spades in my time and some tunk, and, I've done that. But I haven't done no poker. Don't even know where to start, okay? So we're going to sit back and we're going to wait. I know with Jason Terry, I know there was some clamoring of Adam Silver in the NBA office because he was under investigation, and they didn't find anything, and they let him continue to play. And I know Charles Barkley had an issue with that. He said the NBA dropped the ball. Listen, the FBI is not going to give you so much. I think Shaq talked about it. NBA is not going to give you, the FBI is not going to give you everything. Okay? No. Once it got to the FBI's radar, everybody else is shut out. Okay? Now, Malik Beasley also is under investigation. The feds cleared him, but the NBA didn't. Now, that does not make sense to me. Okay? He was accused of some wrongdoings. The FBI did an investigation. The FBI came back and said Malik Beasley has done no wrong. He's cleared. But the NBA has said, nah, we're going to hold up. We're going to do our own independent investigation. Why? If the FBI said he cool, then he cool. What evidence are you going to find? That doesn't make sense. So you see the uneven balance. It doesn't make sense. If the FBI said that this gentleman is clear, why do you feel the need to have to do an independent investigation? You think you're better than the FBI? I think not. I think that's a joke. You know what I mean? So why are we doing this? It doesn't make sense. Okay. So keep your eyes and ears up. We'll get some further developments, and I'll definitely come back and I will talk about it. Lastly, real quick, we want to talk about the Guardians. I know the season has been over for a little bit, but I do want to give a shout out to the Cleveland Guardians. Being able to come back from 12 games down, not only to win, but to win the division. It was just really hard to watch them go against Terrence Skubal for the third time. It's really hard to beat a team in a series 3 times in a row. So I wasn't anticipating the Guardians to win that series against Detroit. I think Skubal was shook after the second series when he hit David Fry in the face, but he wasn't shook after that. Okay. We know that the World Series is going on right now. I mean, the Dodgers is just a juggernaut. I got the Dodgers. I mean, I think Shohei Ohtani is a generational talent. Like, literally. I know there's been a lot of, players that have come from overseas, come from Japan, that has played, come from different countries and play very well. But when I watch Shohei Ohtani, he's just awesome. I hate saying it like that. I don't want to sound like I'm, my fandom, but you got to acknowledge greatness when you see it. And Shohei Ohtani is a generational talent. That gentleman can hit for average. He can hit for power. He gets his stolen bases in. He can field, and he can pitch. Like, seriously, I've never seen somebody like him. I haven't. So I got the Dodgers winning the whole thing. I think the Dodgers are just deeper. And they, you know, of course, their payroll is big, but we won't get into payroll. They're just deeper. That's what it is. They just got, you know, the best talent. You know what I mean? So, all right, y'all, that is it for me. I just wanted to come on here and I wanted to, you know, introduce myself again. Listen, I'm going to be on YouTube, all right? And I'm going to share this thing out, and I want you guys to like, comment, and subscribe to the Locker Room. I want you guys to go to 3 The Hard Way Sports Podcast, like, subscribe, comment to that. Listen, I'm going to have a good time doing this. My goal is to try to come on every Saturday, okay? Or at least every other Saturday. Or if something pops up in sports that I need to talk about, you know, just like Victor Wembanyama going nuts, okay? Going 41, you know, just losing his mind, not having a turnover. I'll come on with stuff like that, okay? But in the meanwhile, listen, y'all enjoy all the games tomorrow. I hope y'all Saturday has gone well, all right? And just remember, love on somebody. Tell somebody that you love them. Don't always assume that they know.
All the brothers we have boys locked up. All my people. No matter where you at, man, straight right with this one for you. I feel the pain from so many mothers crying, cause every single day I see another brother die. It don't make sense. Somebody make it make sense. And all the fathers try to decide to live in hell, cause ain't nothing nice seeing your son inside a cell. It don't make sense.